When Chris Paul arrived in Los Angeles in December 2011, it marked a seismic shift for a franchise that has spent decades as the NBA's resident punchline. The Clippers were synonymous with losing. Instability, empty seasons, and unmet expectations defined their existence. Then, almost overnight, the New Orleans Hornets traded one of the greatest point guards of all time to a franchise that had never even sniffed a championship. With Paul's arrival, the Clippers entered a new era, Lob City. Defined by sky-high lobs to Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, the Lob City Clippers electrified crowds and transformed a forgettable organization into one of the league's most entertaining teams. And Chris Paul was the engine. He brought structure and accountability and relevance to a team that had never sustained it. The Clippers, once invisible, became a premier Western Conference contender. During Paul's first tenure with the Clippers, they regularly finished near the top of the Western Conference standings. Although they never reached the Western Conference Finals, Paul's dominance and leadership made the failure to break through almost even more impossible to explain, which is exactly why their departure will later feel so puzzling. All good things eventually end, and in the summer of 2017, the Clippers traded Chris Paul to the Houston Rockets to join forces with James Harden. That move effectively closed the most successful chapter in franchise history. Lob City, a team with championship potential but consistently derailed by injuries, was officially over. The identity that once shook Staples Center and pulled the Clippers out of the Lakers' shadow vanished. With Chris Paul gone, the organization was forced into a cultural reset, pivoting away from the all-NBA point guard around whom everything had been built around. In Houston, Paul came closer than ever to the NBA Finals. The Harden and Paul Rockets advanced to the Western Conference Finals to face the Steph Curry and Kevin Durant-led Warriors. For the first time in his career, Paul stood on the brink of a finals appearance. Then fate intervened again. In Game 5, with the series tied at 2-2, Paul strained his hamstring. Houston went on to win Game 5, but it would be without their floor general for the remaining two games. The Rockets lost Game 6 at home and then Game 7 in Golden State. And to this day, many fans view that series as one of the greatest what-ifs in NBA history. In 5 games Chris Paul played, he averaged nearly 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and close to 2 steals per game. Had he remained healthy, Houston likely advances and would have entered the finals favored against the Cleveland Cavaliers after surviving the Western Conference gauntlet. A few stops later, Paul finally broke through, ironically against the franchise that helped define his legacy. In 2021, with the Phoenix Suns, Paul returned to the Western Conference Finals to face the Clippers. Extra motivation came standard. 4 years after being traded, he eliminated his former team in 6 games, advancing to the NBA Finals for the first time in his career. During the Western Conference Finals series, Paul averaged 24 points, nearly 9 assists, and almost 2 steals per game. He controlled the entire floor, finishing off the series with a masterclass closeout performance, 41 points, 8 assists, and 0 turnovers. The Suns would ultimately lose in the finals, but for Paul, beating the Clippers felt like its own form of closure, if not validation. Fast forward to 2025, when the Clippers attempted to engineer a full-circle ending. Chris Paul returned for what was supposed to be his final season, back to the organization where he became the point guard. At 40 years old, he signed a veteran minimum, expecting to contribute meaningfully on the court. What was marketed as a heartwarming reunion quickly devolved into dysfunction. The timing couldn't have been worse. Kawhi Leonard was sidelined, the team started slowly, and the Clippers opened the season 3-7. A roster projected to compete in the West stumbled out of the gate. For the month of October, Paul averaged just 2.6 points and 4 assists in nearly 14 minutes per game. Management envisioned him in a mentor's role. Paul, wired by competition, believed he deserved more, and tension followed. Paul clashed with coaches, and players weren't receptive to his leadership styles. Reports surfaced that no teammates besides Zubac attended his Halloween party, a small detail that spoke volumes. As his minutes dwindled, Paul grew increasingly vocal during the team's struggles. The Clippers went 1-9 during a brutal November stretch, and their relationship was fractured beyond repair. Attempts at communication between Paul and the coaching staff fell flat. By December, the situation reached its breaking point. In a stunning mid-season move, the Clippers sent Chris Paul home from a road trip and informed him he would no longer be a part of the team. While appreciative of his contributions to the franchise, the organization made it clear that his services were no longer needed. The celebratory farewell fans expected never arrived. The most influential player in franchise history wouldn't even make it to the season's end. The awkward, abrupt split became a national spectacle, exposing just how misaligned both sides had become. And it wasn't just that. The bizarre divorce sparked a surreal reunion, with the original Lob City teammates Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan FaceTiming Paul shortly after his release. Nearly 8 years removed from their shared peak, the moment only amplified the awkwardness. Three franchise pillars, all of whom had seen their relationships with the Clippers end badly. In the end, Chris Paul's Clippers story reads like a cautionary tale. Relationships may open doors, but competitiveness left unchecked can close them just as fast. Leadership must evolve, ego must bend, and no matter how iconic the resume, no one is bigger than the program, especially on the way out. Paul's failed return underscores how difficult it is to reconcile past glory with present reality, and how even legends aren't immune to the harsh truths of time. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe.